kiddos, this one is called Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat. The night was dark and stormy, the kind of Halloween night that sent shivers down your spine. The wind howled through the trees, and the rain pelted the ground like ghostly whispers. It was the perfect setting for a night of tricks and treats, and 5 teenagers were determined to make it a night they would never forget. Nina, the brave leader of the group, had convinced her friends to embark on a daring adventure. She had heard rumors of a haunted house at the edge of town, a place where no one dared to go. Legend had it that the house was once owned by a wicked old woman who had practiced dark magic. It was said that her restless spirit still roamed the halls, seeking revenge on anyone who dared to enter. Nina, along with her friends Mike, Sarah, Jake, and Emily, gathered in her dimly lit living room, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of carved pumpkins. The flickering candlelight cast unsettling shadows across the room. They huddled together, nervously anticipating their Halloween night adventure. "Are you sure about this, Nina?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. Nina nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "Absolutely, Em. This is the perfect night for a little thrill. We'll be fine." Mike, the joker of the group, chimed in, "Yeah, what's the worst that can happen? We'll get some spooky stories to tell tomorrow." The group mustered their courage and set off into the chilling darkness, armed with flashlights, a bag of candy, and a daring spirit. They walked down the desolate streets, the sound of their footsteps echoing eerily in the night. The rain continued to pour, making the world around them seem distorted and otherworldly. As they approached the outskirts of town, the imposing silhouette of the haunted house came into view. Its dark, decrepit structure loomed over them, seemingly untouched by time. Ivy crept up its walls, and shattered windows gazed like hollow eyes into the night. Nina led the way, her flashlight cutting through the inky darkness. The others followed closely behind, their breaths visible in the cold air. They reached the front door, and Nina pushed it open with a creak that sent shivers down their spines. The smell of damp wood and decay assaulted their senses as they entered. Inside, the house was a labyrinth of narrow, twisting corridors and crumbling rooms. The wallpaper peeled away like leprous skin, and the once grand furniture lay in ruins. Cobwebs adorned every corner, and dust motes danced in the flashlight beams. The group explored room after room, each one more unsettling than the last. They told jokes and laughed nervously to mask their fear, but it was clear that the house was getting to them. It was as if the very walls of the place were closing in, suffocating them with its malevolent presence. In the dim light, they stumbled upon a room filled with old photographs. They depicted the house in its prime, a place of warmth and family. A portrait of an elderly woman caught their attention. She had a sinister glint in her eyes and a twisted smile on her lips. "That must be the old witch herself," Jake muttered, his voice quivering. Nina shivered and turned away from the portrait. "Let's keep moving. We can't let this place get to us." But the house seemed to have a mind of its own. Corridors twisted and turned in on themselves, and doors that led to nowhere appeared out of thin air. They were trapped in a nightmarish maze, and their sense of time began to slip away. After what felt like hours, they found themselves in a room that was different from the others. It was pristine, untouched by the decay that had consumed the rest of the house. In the center of the room stood a small, ornate chest. Sarah cautiously approached the chest and opened it. Inside, she found a collection of antique dolls. They had porcelain faces frozen in twisted expressions, and their glassy eyes seemed to follow the group's every move. As Sarah reached out to touch one of the dolls, a voice whispered from the shadows, "Trick or treat." The group froze, their flashlights trembling in their hands. The voice came again, louder this time, "Trick or treat." Nina's heart pounded in her chest as she scanned the room, trying to locate the source of the voice. Suddenly, the dolls began to move, their joints creaking as they turned their heads to look at the terrified teenagers. Trick or treat, the dolls chanted in unison, their voices a haunting chorus. Without a second thought, the group fled the room, slamming the door shut behind them. They ran through the twisting corridors, trying to find their way out of the house. But the house seemed to have a life of its own, leading them deeper into its nightmarish depths. As they stumbled through the darkness, they began to hear whispers, faint at first but growing louder with each passing moment. The whispers spoke of betrayal, revenge, and a terrible curse that bound the house and its inhabitants together for all eternity. The group's nerves were stretched to the breaking point when they finally stumbled upon a room that seemed to hold a glimmer of hope. It was a library filled with dusty tomes and ancient scrolls. Desperate for answers, they began to search for any clues that could help them escape the house. Emily found a weathered book that seemed to tell the story of the wicked old woman who had once lived there. According to the book, she had been a master of dark magic, and her thirst for power had led her down a sinister path. In her pursuit of immortality, she had performed a forbidden ritual that had cursed her and the house. The curse bound her spirit to the house, and she could only find release if she could trick someone into taking her place. The book warned that those who entered the house on Halloween night were in grave danger, as the old woman's spirit was at its most powerful on that night. The group realized that they were the unwitting victims of the old woman's curse. Panic set in as they heard the whispers drawing closer, and the walls of the house seemed to close in around them. "We need to find a way out of here," Nina said, her voice trembling. They continued to search the library and discovered a hidden passage behind a bookshelf. It led them down into a dark, damp cellar filled with eerie shadows and the sound of dripping water. At the far end of the cellar, they found a heavy wooden door. With trembling hands, they pushed the door open and stumbled out into the night. The rain had stopped, and the moon cast an eerie glow over the house. They were free, but the memory of the haunted house would haunt their nightmares for years to come. As they made their way back to town, they couldn't help but wonder if they had truly escaped the old woman's curse. They had survived the night, but the feeling of being watched lingered, and the whispers of the dolls haunted their thoughts. Halloween had come and gone, but the horror of that night would stay with them forever. For on that night, they had learned that some tricks were not meant to be played, and some treats came with a price too steep to pay. The curse of the haunted house would live on, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim to stumble into its sinister embrace. And as they walked away, they couldn't help but wonder if the old woman's spirit still roamed the halls, seeking the ultimate trick or treat.